Hello, welcome to BioGreat TV. If you're new here, please subscribe and turn on the notification so you don't miss our next video. How Lesotho got independence. What is now Lesotho used to be inhabited by hunter-gatherers called the San Bushmen, but in the 1600s, refugees from Bantu tribal wars started arriving in the region. In 1818, Moshosho, a chief of a northern tribe in what was to become Basotho land, brought together the survivors who had fled from the Zulu raids led by the great Shaka. With these refugees, he founded the Basotho nation. During the early days of its existence, the Basotho also had to contend with incursions by Afrikaners of Boers from the Orange Free State. In the 1830s, white Afrikaner settlers from the Cape Colony left the colony because they felt oppressed by British and began to invade Moshosho's territory. The Basotho fought the settlers in several border incidents. Fighting between Moshosho forces and the Afrikaners continued until the 1860s, and Moshosho lost some of his land to them. After losing a sizable portion of his territory to the Boers, Moshosho decided to seek protection from the United Kingdom. Moshosho realized that the future of Basotho land sovereignty lay in a close association with the British. So in 1862, he wrote to the governor of the Cape Colony, Sir Philip Woodhouse, requesting that an alliance be formed between the two territories. But his request was not met until the 12th of March, 1868, when Woodhouse issued a proclamation declaring Basotho land a protectorate of Great Britain. Moshosho died 2 years later in 1870. The next year in 1871, Basotho land was annexed into the Cape Colony amid protest of both Basotho and Boer leaders. In 1880, the so-called Gun War or Basotho War broke out between the Basotho and the forces of the Cape Colony. Basotho chiefs decided to fight the British to insist on their rights to own and bear arms. The Basotho territory, though under the control of the Cape Colony, had been quite autonomous, with traditional Basotho authorities wielding effective power. But in the late 1870s, the Cape Colony authorities decided to consolidate their power in the region and enforce its laws. Things began to turn for the worse in 1879 when Governor Henry Battle Ferrer carved out part of Basotho land for white settlement and demanded that all natives surrender their firearms to the authorities under the 1879 Peace Protection Act. Many of the Basotho chiefs did not take lightly the attempt to reduce their powers and become openly rebellious. Colonial Cape forces that were sent to put down the rebellion suffered heavy casualties as the Basotho had gotten firearms from the Orange Free State and enjoyed a natural defensive advantage in their mountainous terrain. The rebels relied majorly on guerrilla warfare, ambushing isolated units of the Cape's forces. In October, Basotho forces ambushed and dealt a heavy blow on some British Army lancers, killing 39 of them. The defeat of a well-trained, well-armed and experienced cavalry column discouraged Cape authorities, and a peace treaty was signed with the Basotho chiefs in 1881. By the treaty, the colonial authorities conceded most of the points in dispute. The land remained in Basotho hands and the nation continued to enjoy unrestricted access to firearms in exchange for a national one-time insurance of 5,000 cattle. However, unrest still continued and it became clear that Cape Town could not control the Basotho territory. In 1884, Basotho land was returned to British administration under a policy of indirect rule. Once the Cape Colony and other British colonies were united to form the Union of South Africa, which later became the Republic of South Africa, the British government assumed that Basotho land would eventually merge with South Africa. The South African government repeatedly requested this merger, but the Basotho consistently refused. Local government was introduced in Basotho land in 1910 with the creation of the Basotho Land Council. The council comprised of the British Resident Commissioner, the Paramount Chief, and 99 appointed Basotho members. In effect, for the next 50 years, the chiefs were allowed to govern the territory. Under a new constitution that took effect in 1960, an indirectly elected legislative body, the Basotho Land National Council, was created. Basotho land gained full independence from Britain on the 4th of October 1966 and the name was changed to Lesotho. Jonathan Liaboa became the first Prime Minister of the country. What have we missed out of this history? Let's know in the comment section. Will it be ridiculous to subscribe to our channel? If no, please like this video, share and subscribe to our channel.